What do you see as your primary purpose?
You know, quite simply, and it's a great question, I help people sleep at night. We all know people, and it's not just in these financial times, Loral, it's any time. People are moving through life, and they're always, for the most part, struggling with money. Do they have enough money for retirement? Do they have enough money to put their kids through college? Is their money manager doing the right things with their money? Money and health are these things that, for the most part, people put underneath the bed. They're afraid to actually bring out and see what monsters there may be, and for the most part, they're dust bunnies. And so what I do and what I do with a team of people is we first find out what the truth is, and then we help them move forward with a plan so that they can attack those challenges and the things that keep them up at night.
What are your thoughts on the economy?
Most people that we see right now are sitting on the sidelines exactly waiting for something to happen. And, I heard it from Jim Rohn years ago where he said, it's like the guy standing in front of the fire and say, once you give me some heat, I'll give you some wood. And so they're waiting for something to happen. They're waiting for the sign. And the more people get out and work, the luckier they will get, the opportunities they will find. And it's scary. And part of life is being scared and being able to face those fears. I got a card from a gentleman that I met in Atlanta a few weeks ago, and it's a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. It was on my desk when I walked in. It said, do one thing every day that scares you. Each day, it doesn't mean you have to do crazy things like jumping off a bridge and, doing those type of things. It means most of us are afraid to jump on a radio show or make a presentation. Last night we saw a young man that we had a concert here in northern Nevada for a gentleman named William Joseph, and earlier that day, he had visited a Boys and Girls Club, and this young man, teenager, 16, took out a sax and very nervously started playing it. Well, William invited him up on stage with him last night, and the turn event for that was, at the end of it, one of our regents said, that boy's got a scholarship to college. I'll make sure he goes to college. If he had to be scared, but had he not taken that opportunity, it never would have been there. And all of us need to look at that in business each and every single day. It's not about the employer. It's not about the government. It's about what we can do. This is the time we're alive today. Take the tools that are out there. There's plenty of tools. There is still plenty of capital. There are opportunities to serve people, and that's how we pull ourselves out of this economic downturn.
And so what do you think is going to happen, Tom?
The thing is as soon as we change our mindset from being in a recession or worse, a depression, and understand that we're in a fundamental reset, our numbers were out of whack. No matter what numbers, no matter what chart you look at, no matter what investment it was, the numbers were not right. And we are more into a true reset of the market. And when we understand that and say, I'm not going to wait for 2006 to come back around or 2005 to come back around, today is the day, the sooner we can start moving forward with reasonableness. And I see those. We see those signs happening. We've seen reset of pricing across the country and across the world in many of our countries that we visit. That mindset is starting to take place. This is where real estate is now priced. And the sooner we get there, the better it is. It's painful. It's just like when
It is. And what about the credit markets?
In the residential markets, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and HUD loans are still operating, and thank goodness. If they had not, we would have truly had a true financial meltdown. Those are working mostly because of government subsidies to those markets. That is slowly starting to take exchanges. Investors are starting to buy up those bonds as opposed to treasury bonds. Are seeing less risk, better returns, a little more risk, but they're willing to take that risk. That will move capital back into the market. We're also seeing hedge funds that are starting to go back into the venture market, and you have not seen an IPO or VC deal done nationally in 24 months worth anything. So capital, money wants to work. It's like people. It has a fundamental need to be out there working. It does not like sitting on the sidelines. It's almost like it's got an emotion itself. And as it gets pent up, there's a demand. And there's more than $1 trillion sitting on the sidelines. So when there's a good idea, good ideas can get funded. It may not get funded at the terms that 2006 were, but it can get funded. And if it's not a good idea enough to cover the cost of the capital, then it's not really a good idea.
What is it that's different about the way you advise people around their money?
Primarily what we do, Loral, is we evaluate where people are and then take them to where they want to be, and we do take them to where they want to be when it deals with our type of financial products. We're specialists in the credit market. I have more than 2 decades in dealing with debt and equities in the alternative markets, which is different than the typical Wall Street or bonds or money market funds people will look at. So we find people that want some stability in investments that they can actually understand. They're tangible. And so that also helps take some of the fear out of it. When someone can see a piece of real estate and understand that they can have the underlying debt and an income stream on it, which is in the first payment category, that helps them feel comfortable. And those investments, there are a tremendous tremendous amount of hedge funds out there that are performing in this marketplace, and people need to understand and get access to that. Those have typically been reserved for the highest net worth people. They've started.
Don't you have to be accredited for most of the hedge funds, though, Tom?
For most of the hedge funds, you do. For some of them, there are some alternatives that do allow people that aren't accredited, and one of our goals is to help people to get to become an accredited investor.
Exactly.
The big word is, you got to be an accredited investor, and that's so scary and that's so far off. It really is not an unachievable goal. You have the perfect book for it with The Millionaire Maker. You get to that role, you start making money, and as soon as you make the money, instead of spending it on lifestyle, start investing it. And it is amazing how money attracts money, and it will grow to that point, and in a short period of time, you can be an accredited investor if you're not already.
Love that. Tell us about your book, Standing in the Rain.
Standing in the Rain came about because a couple years ago, I'd go out and talk to people about our investments, and no one wanted to talk about investing. They were starting to get fearful of the market, especially here on the West Coast. We saw the meltdown earlier than the rest of the country. And so what I finally did is last October with an associate of mine named Bill West, great guy. He was my accountability coach. I said, Bill, I got to tell a story so that people will let me talk about my investments and quit asking me about the economic status that we're in. And so we started that, finished up the project by the end of the year, updated it in the first quarter, and it's really about understanding, surviving, and thriving in this financial storm we're in. And the key words of that, Loral, are thriving. When there's chaos, when there's opportunities, when people are fearful, that's the time to stay steady. That's the time to take a leadership position. It's not about the government. It's about our entrepreneurial spirit in the United States. And that's what the book is about. And primarily, it takes a very complex subject. I am a finance major, have an MBA, and for the most part, I have found that people don't understand finance, especially the complex derivatives and things that have happened, and how did this happen in the mortgage market. And we take that and make it relatively easy to understand for the individuals that are out in the marketplace.
Well, real quick, how do listeners contact you? Because I don't want to get that too far to the end of the show. If people want to know more about you, get a copy of your book, how do they contact you, Tom?
The book's title is Standing in the Rain, and it can go out to standingintherain.com and pick up a copy of the book, order it directly through Amazon. You can also sign up for my weekly newsletter. I produce a weekly newsletter that is an observation on economics and finance and investing called the Powell Perspective. And so either website will get you to me, thepowellperspective.com or standingintherain.com.
Why cartoons?
Simply, it's very biased on my part.
Because you like them, number one. It's funny.
Exactly.
Exactly. I knew you were going to say that.
No, my wife would always laugh. She says, you always turn to the political and funny pages first in the paper. And she says, most guys turn to the sports pages. I said, I get there. I get to the business section. But I kind of measure the temperament of people by what's being done in humor. And it was probably for myself. I was dyslexic as a kid, still am, but have learned to overcome that through skills. But cartoons help me understand stuff. Pictures help me understand stuff. And so I know when people are fearful of something, a little bit of humor helps break down that fear, and they can understand. So I personally like it and have found that it's a way that I can approach very difficult, very complex topics and help people understand.
Now, give us an example of one.
Well, right now
we're
doing a piece on money liking to work, and I can't take credit for this idea. It actually came from my wife and a team of people here in the office. And what they started doing is our artist started drawing a dollar bill, and he's ragged and he's on the soup line. And it came out in my last week's Powell Perspective because money is depressed that it's not working right now. And when people can kind of feel that and say, yeah, I've got to get my money to work. It can't just sit there. If we're not working, it's not going to work. Well, the next slide that moves on to there is not only getting the money to work, being happy working, but then it shows that the money has money, little kids, and that money goes to work. And that's one of the greatest secrets of money is that when money works while we're not, that's our definition of wealth, is you are wealthy when your money earns more than you do. When you don't have to go to work, when you have financial freedom because your investments are returning what you need and want, that's wealth. It could be $30,000 a year, it could be $300,000 a year, it could be $30 million a year. It's whatever that benchmark is. And so we do that through pictures.
What are some tips? What are things that people can do today to move their life forward?
Well, the first thing is find out where you are and take a true, honest, affirmations are wonderful, but if you're broke, first start off with saying, I'm broke and I need to fix this. It's time for me to move forward. So if you find out truly where you are without fear, if you have cancer, you want to know you have cancer and you want it eradicated out of your body, and then you want to do the healthy things to take you forward. It's the same thing with your money. It's the same thing with your employment and opportunities out there for owning businesses. Find out where you are and then start moving forward. You have truly a marvelous book in The Millionaire Maker and The Cash Machine. All of us have skills. Find out, do an analysis of where you are, find out what skills you have, and then take those forward.